Welcome to podcast 43. Yes, 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 maybe, but yes.
Now, all right. Welcome to podcast 43. We are here. Me and Fulton are here with our friend of the show and returning guest, Joseph Shin, to talk Jean-Luc Godard.
Howdy, thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Anytime, Joseph.
Yeah, especially for one of the greatest of all cinematic subjects.
That's right. I mean, arguably, just the most interesting director.
The greatest, Chris. The greatest is the word you're looking for.
The greatest.
In a hypothetical world where people are just always asking, what's the greatest director? And even if it's people who are dead or not dead, my answer is always Godard.
Yeah, I mean, because nobody else makes things like him, and nobody else contains so many multitudes and pushes the limits of cinema, and has pushed the limits of cinema since he started out. So definitely a lot to talk about. And so for this episode, I picked 3 movies to talk about specifically. I picked 1964's Band of Outsiders, which was released in the middle of his new wave period of 15 movies that he made between 1960 and 1967. Then I picked his, I'm using air quotes, his adaptation of King Lear, which was made in 1987, famously financed by B genre studio Canon Films. And his most recent project, which was 2018's The Image Book, which famously won the special Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, which was a award that they created just to give to this film, and they have never given to another film. So 3 very different films from his career. And then, of course, we'll talk a little bit about his whole Maoist political period and kind of what that entailed for a few years. But yeah, so I guess let's just get into it. So Band of Outsiders is it's a very narrative based film still. I mean, like, I wouldn't call it a conventional film because I don't think that word really applies to Godard. But it still does have like an actual, like, you know, more traditional type structure, and you still get that like cinephilia that I love about Godard. But what else?
Out of these 3, I would say it's the most like easily digestible one. Like, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I feel like I have a pretty, like, I still kind of remember it a good bit. I'd say it's definitely the most like, and I get what you mean by not wanting to call it conventional, because it's definitely not, but I think it's, in comparison to these 2, it's more digestible.
But yeah, whenever someone asks for a first film to get into Godard, some people like to say Breathless because it was his first feature film, but I think Band of Outsiders is even better first pick for people. I think it's a lot more accessible in terms of, like you said, there's a pretty straight ahead plot in terms of, like, you can map it out what happens exactly in the story. But also it's so springtime. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of energy to it that I even think Breathless doesn't equal. I think it's more refined in that Band of Outsiders. It was his 5th film, curiously, because it feels like an earlier film, something that, you know, a 2nd or 3rd film, but it's his 5th. He had made Breathless, La Petite Soldat, Contempt, and La Carabiniere before it. But it's really a breath of fresh air.
I would completely agree. I think it's probably my favorite of his collaborations with his muse, I should say, Anna Karenina. I think that this is the best that they've ever worked together. I mean, Pierre Le Fou is probably the runner-up after that, but I think that what I like about Band of Outsiders is that it also reflects the cinephilia that Godard has, and how he is constantly referencing, you know, the gangster pictures of that he grew up with, and that he kind of reviewed for when he was writing for Cahiers de Cinema. And so it's just kind of his take on that. And I mean, that's kind of what Breathless is similarly, but like you said, Joseph, I just think that this one does it better. It's a more refined version of that. So yeah, I mean, it also kind of has this theme that I like about Godard, where he kind of makes fun of he kind of makes fun of his characters and kind of points and laughs at them with kind of the two characters, the two men in Band of Outsiders are Franz and Arthur, who are these two men that like are trying to pull off a heist, and like, you know, they love gangster movies and stuff, but like they're actually like totally out of their element. And Godard kind of plays around with this a lot in his films. In his later film Les Chinois, it's similar with making fun of political activism among students in Paris that are Maoist activists. Yeah, I just think it's an interesting theme for him to play around with.
Yeah, it almost harkens forward to sort of the Coen brothers films, sort of everything that can go wrong will go wrong. You see that deployed in this film. So it centers on a heist, and it's pretty miserably conceived and pathetically executed.
Yeah, they're just like, we're gonna get the money and then we'll figure out the rest. I mean, this film was referenced in Bertolucci's The Dreamers from 2004, which is about, you know, an American student and two French students growing up in the 60s, and they pay homage to the scene where they run through the Louvre in Band of Outsiders, and it's part of like this whole game that they play. Definitely.
That's what a lovely little description of such a very erotic.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's about
exchange student and, you know, two other students.
Yeah,
they frolic around in the Louvre.
Great film though.
Someone at home's like, I gotta check this out. This is when they throw it on with grandma. And it's like, oh wow, look at that.
Well, they really shouldn't be showing grandma any Bertolucci films that aren't The Last Emperor. So that was kind of where they went wrong from the get-go.
That's a Bertolucci for the grandmas. Yeah, that's right.
But what would you guys say is your favorite out of this period of Godard's new wave period?
The one that you mentioned, Parola Fu, is probably my nominal favorite. I like the callback. I like that Belmondo's back from Breathless. I like that. I like Anna Karina is I think in finest form. I like that it's a nexus point in between sort of his political period and sort of the new wave period. It's very conscious of sort of politics, but not letting it overstate sort of the stylistics. And it's, I think, some of the most gorgeous color work that he's done, and there's just sequences in it that I just think about endlessly, like when they're doing the sort of the take on the Vietnam War with the matches. I think is an indelible image. The bowling, immolation.
He was very good. Well, that's kind of interesting. Well, another thing that's interesting about Godard is that whenever he shot in black and white, he always wanted to use the Academy ratio, but whenever he shot in color, he always wanted to shoot it in CinemaScope. Like, he's very big with that. So you kind of have him jumping back and forth in this period where you have something like Carabinier, which he purposefully made as ugly as possible, which, you know, is an anti-war film that he shot on 16 millimeter, and he tried to run it through and make a bunch of copies of it to make it look ugly and gross. And it's an Academy ratio, black and white, and then following up with like Contempt, which is just a very beautifully shot, colorful film that, you know, begs to be shown on as big of a screen as possible.
Just to answer your question really quick, I don't think I'm super well versed in Godard, but the one that always sticks out in my mind when I think about, is Weekend considered part of his new wave period?
That was his final new wave.
So that one is my favorite. For some, I think that may have been my first Godard film too, as well.
That's an interesting one to start with.
It's very dense. But that one kind of captivated me in a way that I don't know if I've gotten as captivated with his other films. That one really did like inspire me to like look more into it and try to understand it. And I do really want to rewatch it. Coming here soon. I just haven't done it.
It is a great film because it's really it's really him trying to hold on to whatever structure he like has left, as it's just
right. The end title card is End of Cinema, isn't it? End of Cinema.
And I think we can talk about that title card is an important part of like his future career and kind of the direction that he ended up moving, because we could, the Image book is really kind of such radical cinema that like nobody else is really making. And because he has this name recognition, I think that gives him the ability to just get money to make like these movies that like nobody else could get away with making. But yeah, Weekend is kind of his final, he's just trying to hold on to structure while also it's being just supplanted by like his the political ideology that's kind of taking hold of him at that time, just kind of with all the Marxism that is just espoused throughout Weekend. And then in the previous film, his previous film, La Chinoise, kind of also represents the direction that Godard would go in later on.
It's funny, Maoism, I only ever hear these days in relation to something Godard. Like you never hear Maoism so casually unless it's about, at least in the circles I run in. I don't know about you.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, this is the first time.
Yeah, just casually.
It's a weird little idiosyncrasy. It's just such a strange, like it is something that, it was a fad, but he's such a famous, popular filmmaker.
So you actually did see some of those Giga Vertov group. So after, I'll probably preface this with, after Weekend, he said that he wasn't going to make narrative films anymore. He said that cinema should only be used for political purposes, or cinema is politics, to paraphrase. And he ended up working with Jean-Pierre Gaurin, and they made film. They're just really political cinema. And I really haven't seen any of it. I haven't even seen Tout va bien or Sympathy for the Devil, but you have seen a lot of it, right?
I've seen a few. I've seen some of the more notable ones. A lot of them are supposed to be incredibly inscrutable, which is saying something. But yeah, I just recently saw Sympathy for the Devil, which, if you're not familiar, is sort of a quasi documentary. It documents the making of the song Sympathy for the Devil in the studio by the Rolling Stones. Those sections of the film are very methodical. You see Keith Richards and Mick Jagger just like working on how the vocal track should go, how the instrumentation should go. Even again, that there's a bit where they get the famous woo woos all in a go. But then the other part of it, the sort of more obviously Godardian section, are these tracks of film that are sort of these, they're more like kind of like tone poems. So one of them is Black Panthers, and they're reading Eldridge Cleaver, the thinker. And so they're reading it, and then they're also like killing white women during the progress of it. And then there's another sort of sequence where there's this woman, and I think her name is Democracy, and she's played, I think, by his wife at the time, and I don't know how to pronounce her name. It's very difficult. Fulton knows a thing about difficult names. The pronunciation of.
My it's decreased ever since we stopped doing the news section, so I've kind of saved myself in a sense.
Yeah. And so her name is like Democracy, and like the reporters follow her and ask her very like heady political questions, and she only responds in yes and no. So that's kind of its own little thing. And then my favorite section is this little like convenience store, and it's filled with it's selling comic books, porn magazines, and like political manifestos. And there's these two mouths in the corner, gagged and tied up. And then when people come in and buy anything from the store, they buy it, and then they give a Sig Heil to the guy, and then slap the two mouths in the face and leave. So it's incredibly perverse, as you can surmise. I don't know how seriously Godard took it. I don't know how seriously the audience took it. It didn't do very well. It was actually re-edited from his original cut to be a little more friendly. Originally, he had the film not end with the complete version of Sympathy for the Devil, sort of the kind of version that we would all know, because he says art is always changing. Like if I had that at the end, that would show that, it would be kind of a statement that like it's the end of it. But art and revolution are always in flux. So he was kind of aesthetically opposed to that sort of ending. But the producer was like, that's what people want. And so they put it in. And he got into a physical fight with the producer at the first screening as a result. So that was one of his films from his revolutionary period. Another, probably the most famous one is the one that Chris mentioned earlier, Tu Vas Bien.
Yeah.
Which is actually a very incredible film. I would rank it among some of his best work. And it's actually for such a obviously political text, it's very accessible in terms of like he's using the same sort of style and sort of preoccupations that he used earlier in his career. And it has actual stars.
Jane Fonda. Yeah.
Jane Fonda and Yves Montand are sort of the lead characters. And it's very playful. The beginning of the film is a sequence in which a producer is writing checks, which are checks about the making of that actual film, Tu Vas Bien. So like checks, we got to pay for actors. Check, we got to pay
very much
for
like King Lear, actually.
Yeah, Lear. Yeah. I was gonna mention when we talked about King Lear, it reminded me of Tu Vas Bien in many ways. But the sort of main action of Tu Vas Bien is about a strike at, I think, a meat processing facility.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is actually a take on Jerry Lewis's The Ladies' Man, because they use a dollhouse sort of setup, just like The Ladies' Man, as the factory.
And who could forget that Greg Araki paid homage to this film in his Anna Faris led stoner comedy Smiley Face, actually.
That's right. That's cinema is always referencing each other. And that's a wonderful. And Godard is the most wonderful reference artist there was, which is, I think, as we trace from his earlier films, his latest films, that's kind of the commonality. He's always subsuming other films and other art forms continually.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's important to also talk about kind of his obsession with Brechtian styles of with kind of Brecht and how Brecht would write his plays. Very...
hit us with the definition of Brechtian, Chris Ward.
Well, very didactic, I would say, where it causes trying to alienate the audience with like not making them kind of like it's so hard to alienating.
It's my favorite thing to see people like try to describe what they think Brechtian is. Everyone, it's like it's such a simple idea. Like everyone knows what it is, but no one can never express it in quite a sufficient manner.
Yes, I mean it is very tough, like to just get across, like, yeah, I guess alienating the audience in a way that it's like not telling a common story, but allowing people to just kind of analyze the information presented towards them. I don't know. I hope I did good. I think you're getting to the point. And I would say that usually artifice, a lot of the times bringing in artifice and to sort of, or breaking artifice and sort of is the main aim, and to sort of increase, I think, the strength of the actual core of whatever idea you're trying to present in whatever you're doing. And that's something, I think that's what Godard took, even from his earliest films, like his second film, A Woman is a Woman. Yes. Which is
incredible.
A great film.
Yeah, an incredible movie. And one of the things that it does is it just periodically just takes out sound at seemingly random moments for no particular narrative reason. But it reminds the audience, sound is such a major part of the construction of the film. You should be aware that sound in film is an illusion. It's
I mean, I think that he has the best use of title cards, like of any filmmaker too, where he can just kind of hammer a point into your head just through making words appear just constantly, like, like in Hail Mary, there's a 3 words that appear on the screen. I can't tell you. I think it's like in the time, or just something like that. And then kind of juxtaposing that with images is just, he clearly understands the importance of the image and storytelling, and kind of can use every tool at his disposal. But, similarly in my favorite of his films, Masculine Feminine, where he segments it into chapters. And I know Joseph does not understand why I like that movie so much.
I think it's a good movie. I'm also an appreciator of Jean-Pierre Léaud, who features in. Now I've seen quite a number of his films because I watched him in Detective today, which he is one of the stars of.
And did you see Le Gai Savoir?
Le Savoir, he's one of the leads in that, which is very similar. I think probably the first instance of his sort of filmmaking style that resembles sort of the kind of image book collage cinema that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah,
that film is essentially a bunch of studio footage of Léaud and I think the other actress
the other girl from
Berteau. I think and then they're talking about like language and teaching, and sort of a lot of a montage of sort of images and clips occur in that film.
And Godard is obsessed with language. So much that, you know, he wanted to say goodbye to it in 2014 with his film Goodbye to Language. But he's very much a visual filmmaker first and foremost, because he thinks that action and cinema as a visual medium is more important than just people talking. So that's why his films have kind of trended into more of visual collages, where I don't know, like I don't know about you guys, but when I was watching the image book, sometimes I had subtitles on, and sometimes like he would say something and like the subtitles would not even.
It was insane.
They're not everything is subtitled. He's famous for just having an animosity towards required subtitles. See his film Socialisme has long stretches where not a lick is translated, just very cryptic, like the 3 phrases from each like sentence will be shown on screen, and so you could never, as a non-speaker of French, or there's a multiplicity of languages in that film, you would never be able to get the actual meaning of what is diegetically being spoken.
Yeah, it's
a wild aesthetic strategy, a very alienating one, and one that made many people boo at the festival that year.
Well, part of me wondered if it was like a thing, because I rented it, but when it came up, it said Kino Lorber. And I was like, oh, fuck. Because me and Chris tried to watch, we were going to do an episode on How I Won the War, which is a
the Lennon film, the one with John Lennon.
Yeah, we were gonna do is it Dick Lester?
It was Richard Lester.
Richard Lester. Yeah. And we popped the Blu-ray in, and it had no subtitles. And I mean, it was the most difficult like English I've ever had to like decipher in my life. Like we could not tell what was going on, and we couldn't find like a single version of it that had subtitles. And so I was like, when I saw that Kino Lorber came up, I was like, fuck, like I don't.
Was Lennon intelligible?
Not real. I mean,
he talks very fast.
Yeah. Well, I'm very used to his voice, so I could under. Well, I mean, we didn't get super far into it, but I could understand what he was saying. But everyone else, I was getting like whiplash. Like I could not understand. But I'm gonna watch it one day.
So we watched,
and it's a war film too. So you know,
there's a lot going on.
Like, let's go over there.
Yeah, it might be a 2 viewing type movie to get the whole. You know,
maybe you have to be the one to you got to take it for the rest of the team. You got to make you got to sit scene by scene and just transcribe.
Ever since I heard about it, I was super excited about it. And then like a day or 2 after I heard about it, Chris sent me a text like, hey, I saw it at Yo-Yo's, and so I was like, please go pick it up for me and I'll Venmo you. And so I was really excited. But
man, that's ableist. How are the hard of hearing? I know it's supposed to.
Come on,
yeah, I have no idea. It's insane. I don't. So, but long story short, I was like, oh fuck, did Kino like mess up the subtitle track on this one? And so like I felt like I was so lost, because I've gotten so used to putting on subtitles, which again is, you know, to strengthen what you guys are saying about Godard. That was the point. But I was like, oh my God, I'm missing like 60% of the information.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah. So yeah, I guess we can go into his 80s filmmaking, which was kind of a return to form for him, as far as, I mean, as much of a return to form of like kind of a conventional filmmaking Godard will allow himself to go. But he made Every Man for Himself, which was his first one that was like more of him returning back to that,
and did very well. It was released. It was released pretty widely. He has a great interview with Dick Cavett promoting that film.
Yeah, I saw that. Dick Cavett interview.
And it is. He calls it, or I think at least critics called it his second new wave, and he called it his first film. And it's pretty interesting. It does launch a new sort of kind of style for him. The films are very handsomely photographed. He is very conscious about sound to an even more systematic extent than in his earlier films.
And you've seen Godard's Passion as well, correct?
Passion, the cinematography is just excellent. Raoul Cotard lenses a lot of these films.
Yeah.
And Passion is probably his greatest effort, because the Passion is about a director who's trying to stage living tableaus on film of sort of very famous paintings. And so you get these just incredible images of just like Godard trying to replicate like Goya paintings on film. And it's really quite something. You really have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, it's definitely probably the next one I'd like to see. And then I did watch Hail Mary as well for this week, which was his 1985 film. That was his modern retelling of the virgin birth, which I thought was a very good film, kind of taking the story of Jesus and Mary and Joseph and the birth of Jesus and telling it in contemporary 80s France. And like Gabriel, the angel Gabriel, is just like some guy that just
he plays Oh no, that's Joseph, isn't Joseph is a basketball player?
Yeah, right? No, well, Mary's a basketball player.
Mary also, yeah. There's a lot of basketball in the film.
Yeah, Mary plays basketball. And a lot of people actually, the most people, when they talk about this film, they talk about how the Vatican came out so strongly against.
It's incredibly controversial. Any Jesus movie will do that to
lots of
the folk.
Lots of graphic nudity too that probably didn't help. But it's not the thing is that it's not a very sexualized film. It's just more kind of, it's just so matter of fact with just Miriam Roussel, who plays Mary, just being just naked as Mary, pregnant, and it's very simple in the way that Godard's earlier films worked, kind of not a lot.
It's very funny too.
Yeah, very funny.
The best line in the film to me is when I think someone's asking like, when will Mary and Jesus be back, and she's like, Easter.
Yeah, that's a great line at the end.
Real belly chuckle, I'm sure, in the art house theater.
And so then this kind of leads us to, well, there was Detective too, which you did bring up that you saw.
Detective, which is very similar in sort of his preoccupations in the new wave films, because you got sort of the gangsters and the cops, and it's kind of a very playful film about they're trying to someone owes a lot of debts. I don't want to spoil it, and it's kind of hard to spoil Godard films because they're so elliptical.
Oh yeah,
the way that the plot is dispersed is so odd.
Yeah, good luck spoiling King Lear. I don't really.
Let's do it, boys. That's what we're gonna do tonight. We're gonna spoil King Lear for all you kind folks out there.
And so Detective leads us to King Lear, which
I have a quick question, just super quick.
Oh yeah, sure.
Was Alphaville in the new wave period as well?
Alphaville was 65. Yeah.
I bought that Kino Lorber. That still, I want to watch that one soon. But sorry.
I had to tell you, it's not subtitled. I'm just messing.
God damn. I would lose my. I'd kind of be like, fuck, man, I'm not getting another Kino.
Yeah, I hope
it's
I
too
hope
late.
a
I've
Kino
already
Lorber
bought
representative
more.
is listening right now.
Yeah, come
They're
on.
freaking out.
I
They're
bought
like,
many
"Is
of
that
your
Happens podcast?"
Blu-rays. I'm perfectly fine with working for you guys one day if you want me to write
Yeah.
anything.
Well, I've bought like 4 other Kino Lorbers like recently, so
they're still getting.
I'm still buying them. So,
but so King Lear is, I would say King Lear is probably a more interesting development than the action. I mean, the movie is interesting to talk about, but I don't think it's like necessarily a good film. Because so Canon Films, who is famous for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I think they made like Chuck Norris films.
The Death Wish sequels. How could you forget? Death Wish 3, a big Canon production. Yeah, so all these kind of more schlocky action films that are great. And so then they said, well, let's give Jean-Luc Godard $1 million because we want to branch out into more artistic.
They wanted to muscle in on the art house, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if they ever like watched a Jean-Luc Godard film before, or because like this film did not make a lot of money. It feels kind of chopped together because they had to put it out for Con 87. And so it just kind of, I don't think it really works in the same way that Godard's earlier new wave films work, with kind of how, even though that it kind of mimics the style still of those films, it also just has so many cameos. Like, it's insane the amount of people that are in this film. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting too, because I did read that at the beginning of the film. So in case people don't know, Godard is doing an adaptation of King Lear, and Norman Mailer actually wrote the script to King Lear. And at the beginning of the film, Norman Mailer and his daughter play themselves and show up. And Godard says, this is Norman Mailer. He's supposed to write King Lear, and kind of explaining that with the voiceover narration. And then they're just like, and they're not going to be in the rest of the movie because we're not like using that script or anything. And then it just kind of goes in a different direction. And there's very few lines of dialogue from the actual King Lear that is used. Like, I think it's really only Act 1 that is used in the beginning of the film by Molly Ringwald's character, who is Cordelia, who is actually a character from King Lear.
Shakespearean scholar Chris Bohr with the assist. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. But yeah, and it's about the descendant of Shakespeare who has to go around trying to get the parts of King Lear that people can remember. And
yeah, let's not bury the lead. There's been an apocalypse.
Yeah,
there's been an apocalypse after Chernobyl. It occurs post Chernobyl, and art has just been obliterated.
Everything else is fine though.
I think he's like Willie Shakespeare, like the fifth, I think, or something.
William
like
Shakespeare Jr. the fifth.
Yeah. And he's got to piece together. Yeah.
It's like the tamest version of an apocalypse I've ever seen put to film.
That's Godard.
Like. Yeah.
I mean,
Alphaville has some similarities, is what I was gonna say. Yeah, Fulton. When you see that, I think you'll see some sort of this lo-fi sci-fi aesthetic is gonna ring very strongly in that work as well. Much more successful, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not even like that crazy about Alphaville, but Alphaville pulls off what King Lear is trying to do a lot better. And so then he just kind of goes around trying to get everything together, and King and Godard actually is a character in the film, and actually farts on William Shakespeare Jr. the fifth.
Let's
go. Fart too. It's a
great fart.
Yeah.
It's the most dubbed in fart.
With King Lear, I really like the idea of a descendant of William Shakespeare having to kind of rebuild it all from scratch and from what people can remember. It's a film that I really, really like the concept, but I'm just not really that crazy about the movie itself. Because it just feels, I don't know, that's kind of the point too, for it to feel kind of disjointed, but it like feels very disjointed to me. I didn't feel like a great sense of cohesion in it, but maybe, that's also a Godard thing too,
Oh, it
but
very much is. Yeah.
even in Weekend, I kind of felt like the ideas were flowing from scene to scene more successfully than in King Lear.
I kind of had Weekend syndrome with this because Weekend is not one of my favorite Godard films, but I do like the first act. I think is incredibly entertaining and diverting.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt a similar sort of kinship in this film, and sort of when it opened and it has that great bravura, sort of like it opens with a phone call from the producer to Godard saying like, this film has got to be done, la 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 la, and Godard's like, okay, and then cut to like getting Norman Mailer on his ass doing like the script, and I find that very funny. I find that very provocative, and so I was like, oh wow, this is going to be that kind of film, and then you get that sequence, and Norman Mailer quits the production because him and Godard don't get well, which is saying something for Norman Mailer, another famously tempestuous man. But then sort of it transitions into the sequence where Godard does his classic sort of just pontificating, and there's this image sequence sets up Willie Shakespeare, and sort of it devolves into sort of this more monotonous pace that I had not quite foreseen. And there are flashes of inspiration that on a first viewing. I will also contend that this was my first viewing of the film, and I've never watched a Godard film that I did not appreciate on a rewatch. And this very well is probably one of those incredibly dense film. But there's just stretches where I tuned out or
same here.
There is some stuff going on here that is definitely worth talking about, kind of Godard's obsession with images, like I've said, where there's this quote where he says the image is the pure creation of the soul, which is kind of mirroring the quote from Le Petit Soldat, where the image or film is truth at 24 frames per second, kind of that type, kind of following in line with that type of thinking that he subscribes to. And I think that it also kind of connects to what he's trying to say about maybe King Lear as a story, and how it's about how King Lear's daughters only kind of say that they love King Lear, but his real daughter actually shows that she loves King Lear, and her actions don't mean as much. That her actions, his bad daughter's actions that say that they love King Lear mean a lot more to him than his daughter that doesn't say it but acts, but still shows it through her actions, and kind of about truth being through the image and not through language. But it takes a lot to like grasp out of, like, to try to get that from this film is very, very tough. Because
if the film wasn't titled King Lear, you'd be doing a lot more legwork to connect it. The thing that connects it to King Lear, probably the two things, is like the father-daughter motif. Is pretty clear in the film. And sort of the thing that I think Godard is most fascinated with, like sort of the theme from King Lear, and like you said, most of the action from King Lear that it takes is really like the beginning of Act 1 when King Lear is talking to his daughters, and Cordelia says, when he's asking her declaration of love, she says nothing, and that becomes the most dominant theme in King Lear, linguistically and sort of thematically, because nothing,
no thing,
which Godard transcribed as no thing instead of nothing, becomes the most like prevalent title card in the film.
And I just would really like to know the numbers of people that really liked Molly Ringwald and 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, and Pretty in Pink, that were like, we got to go see our new movie King Lear.
Double feature of Pretty in Pink and King Lear would certainly go off, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it's and then the Woody Allen
cameo
role just kind of shoved in at the end. Mr. Alien is his character.
Mr. Alien, yeah.
Oh, that was pretty good.
Very clever.
Is very, very funny to me how he is the person that will reassemble art. Reassemble
right,
the
yeah,
film.
because he has that bit where he's literally with needle and thread sewing together the film.
The film, yeah.
Which again, like I'm still trying to figure out what Godard or how Godard feels about Mr. Allen himself. Because I just can't tell. Because with Meat and WA, it's like he's making
WA,
fun of him, but maybe
film, yeah.
not, or I don't like I can't really decipher what his thoughts are on him.
I would gander that it's I don't think that he likes particularly his films. I would imagine.
Yeah. For some reason, I completely off topic, but it just came to my mind. I wonder what Godard would think of 4K, or like what he thinks of like physical media as a thing. But I don't know why that popped into my head.
I think he'd probably use it as a tool for whatever movies he wants to make, because he's been able to adapt with the times quite well, as we've seen in the Image book with digital photography.
Yeah, he's fascinated with different mediums and forms, certainly.
That's what I really love about him, is that he never became an old fart in the traditional sense of the word. He never was like, these new filmmakers, they got this new technology, like it all sucks, it was better back then. Like, he's been able to change with the times and still make his weird films that and be able to be content with that.
And no one will follow him. He's without parallel. That's his tragedy, is that he is without equal, with no real
he's got no linen
people to take up the mantle. There's no one I can't think of anyone that I would name as a successor.
That final scene on the beach in King Lear,
it is a moving image. I do love that. I do love the image of Burgess Meredith with
great
Molly Ringwald and
great final scene with Molly Ringwald on the beach lying down, and then you have this horse riding across. I mean, it's just a really great picture.
Very slow motion. And the image of the beach, Burgess Meredith and Molly Ringwald is repeated in the Image book. He uses it quite a bit.
He uses it in the Image book.
There's also that image of I'm not like 100% sure, but I feel like he did take it from King Lear. But there's an image, I think, of Woody Allen's hands
sewing
on
the
like a
film together.
splice.
Yeah, that's also
Okay, yeah. So I thought that was cool for him to kind of throw those back into the mix, thematically and kind of bring that back up. Are we ready to talk about the Image book?
Yeah. Is anyone ready to ever talk about it? Is the question.
So I guess we can again preface this with, he continued to push the envelope. His history of cinema, Histoire du Cinema series, which is an 8-part film,
which I must see. It is apparently the most, like, his most. Some people say it is his best thing that he has made. It is like the most important film that he has done.
So 266 minutes of Mr. Godard telling you about.
I can't find cinema. It, Chris. If you could find that for me,
I'm on the case, Chief.
Thank you, Detective.
But it's so a lot of people would say that's like kind of a prequel to what his most recent 3 films have been. So Film Socialism, Goodbye to Language, and The Image book, which were all released in the 2010s. And I've never seen Film Socialism, but I have seen Goodbye to Language. And I will say that I did enjoy The Image book more than Goodbye to Language, because I think that Goodbye to Language is a very important film to watch in like 3D. If there are very few movies that I would say I wish I saw this in 3D. and I think it's probably Goodbye to Language and then Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity. Those are probably the only.
I would
two.
kill to have seen Goodbye to Language in 3D. That and Love, Gaspar Noé's Love, are the two films.
Oh, Gaspar Noé's Love would be a good
Before
one.
I die, I would love to see those in 3D. I guess I would like to see Dial M for Murder in 3D.
Oh, I would really like to see
would
that
be
one in
pretty
3D. Yeah.
Or maybe Creature from the Black Lagoon too.
13 Ghosts, the William Castle film, which is, I don't think it's not 3D, it's ghost vision. Ghost glasses that you put on and the ghosts come out.
Well, see, that's why I was so happy that
filmmaking would make a return.
I'm so happy that I had my copy of Spy Kids 3D.
What's stopping us, fellas?
Because that is very true.
Film.
And I don't mean gimmick as like a bad thing.
It's not a derisive term. No, I celebrate it.
Mm-hmm. Like Odorama. I want Odorama back. But sorry, it's a little sidebar.
And so, yeah, and so I mean, have you guys seen either Film Socialism or Goodbye to Language?
Yeah, I've seen Film Socialism, and unlike Image Book that does have actors, it does have a semblance of narrative. It's also split into chapters.
I mean, Goodbye to Language kind of does too, a little bit.
Goodbye to Language also does. Image Book, I think, is the first Godard feature film to not have an actor in it at all, because it does not have any.
Well, I was wondering if he shot like anything.
There are some scenes, and you can probably tell which ones they are because they're obviously not the archival footage or sort of that looks like it was shot on film. Some of the digital cinematography, I think, was shot by, not personally by Godard, but by his team. He had sent out to collect some images.
But I personally found the Image Book to be a great experience. I think the more I think about it, the more I like it. And
on a sensory level, it's an enthralling ride because you really see images like you've never seen them before, just in an incredibly just the way that he deep fries some of the images, changes the aspect ratio, just collapses images into each other. It's just incredibly innovative.
I mean, 7.1 sound mix on the Blu-ray, and I don't have a 7.1 setup, so I didn't fully experience it, but I can only imagine what that would sound like with all the audible noises coming from each channel, and the way that dialogue is mixed as if it's like behind you is a very alienating.
Maybe that's why, because I just watched it because I wanted to watch it this morning, so I could be like ready for it. But I should have watched it in the living room because I watched it just on like a little like just the TV that I have in my bedroom, and there was stuff like I couldn't hear it, and it was really like frustrating for me because some things would be like this and then some things would be like this, and it was I think it's a detriment to watch it on like a normal TV that
Can we talk about how Godard has one of the weirdest, the strangest voices?
Yeah.
Because I don't like English. I know, like we know he's Swiss. Like I don't know what a Swiss person talks like. If that's how Swiss people talk, it's a little strange.
So Joseph, I'm still reading that Colin McCabe Godard book.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Oh, it's a great book. And one of my favorite pieces of information about Godard's early life is how his French and Swiss citizenships both got him out of fighting in any type of war because he would just go back between Switzerland and France. And Switzerland was like in a conflict in like Indochina, which is weird to think that Switzerland was ever in some type of conflict. But they said that if you're a Swiss citizen, but you're not living in Switzerland, you're fine. And then like to go and fight in Algeria for the French, he just went back to Switzerland. And of course, that's where they filmed Le Petit Soldat in Switzerland. And so it's just a really funny, man's so lucky.
That biography, because like before that biography, I hadn't had like much of a biographical history of Godard, but I've always thought of him as sort of this like a very, very like sort of well-off individual.
Yeah.
But he had a kind of a little bit of a fraught childhood and like upbringing.
Well, his mother died tragically when he was quite young.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then sort of like he was kind of a miscreant as well. He was a thief. He would steal from his friends and family, and sort of like I'd always associate that he's always posited against Truffaut.
Well, because Truffaut
kind of
was
the rough
poor.
guy.
Yeah.
But Godard was getting into shenanigans.
Do you prefer the Richard Brody book or the McCabe book?
The Brody one is more exhaustive, and the McCabe is very much situated in a tone that tries to contextualize Godard and tries to. The great thing about the McCabe that I like is that it sort of gives you like good little summaries of like sort of political ideologies and sort of movements and like philosophical things that Godard was interested in. Like he'll take a good like couple pages and be like Maoism, blah 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 blah. Like this is why it was a big thing then and why Godard was interested in it. But Brody is like much more methodical and like he gives every film its due and sort of I would say is like a very definitive chronicler of especially the later films, the ones that people don't give as much attention to, like after the New Wave.
I mean,
like King Lear is his favorite. He considers it the greatest film ever made.
Brody
considers King Lear. He submitted in one of his Sight and Sound polls. He submitted it as the #1 film of all time.
Yeah.
So there are diehard stands. That's why King Lear is an interesting case because there are people who defend it so vehemently that that's the thing with Godard is that even when I don't like the film, especially on a first watch, I understand that there's something in there that I trust his authorial.
That's right. Yeah.
So much that even if I don't get it, I understand that there's something there probably. And there's very few artists that I can say that for. Like maybe like Bob Dylan is one of the only other ones. Because be like, even if I don't like it, like there's something in there. That lyric probably means something.
Well, Le Carabinier, I texted you after I watched it and I was like, this is a brilliant film. Like you need to go see this. And then you didn't really care for it nearly as much as I did.
No. Yeah.
But I think it's I think it's a brilliant film. And I think that even if you don't fully respect it the way that I do, you can at least see what I see in it at least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so the Image book, so like Fulton said, it opens with Mr. Alien, aka Woody Allen, reassembling the Image. Mm-hmm. And this kind of thread, I think, ties, Weekend, Weekend and King Lear and Image book all together, where if Weekend is the end of cinema, then King Lear is Godard trying to recreate cinema in a way, or recreate art in a way. And then the Image book is kind of a continuation of that. And so it's just a selection of different clips and images. And a lot of them, what I thought was a really fun game to play was just write down all the different films that.
How many did you get?
I got a good bit. I mean, Solo, Pasolini Solo, Johnny Guitar, which is which I thought was a very important pick for Godard to put in there because it's such a formative film for him back in his Cahiers de Cinema days, where he would write and talk about how much he loved the films of Nicholas Ray. So to include that is, I think, detrimental. La Strada, Keaton's The General, Todd Browning's Freaks, the Jean Cocteau Beauty and the Beast, Notorious, the Hitchcock film. But it's a good collection of films.
And then of many of his own films, like we mentioned, King Lear is in there. La Carabiniere is in there.
Yep, La Carabiniere. Yeah.
I'm trying to think, there's some others. But yeah, because any history of cinema includes Godard. And he's got the balls to admit it.
I mean, spot the lie, you could be too. It is amazing though that he's really the only. I mean, of the heavy hitters from the French New Wave, he's really the last man standing. Mm-hmm. There's really nobody else since Agnes Varda passed, and some people would even say she's not technically French New Wave.
Yeah, snobs.
Yes, no, I know exactly. She is.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But it does the whole thing with language in this too, where it goes remakes and then parentheses, another title card, parentheses around the and then makes, and then rim aches.
Yeah, I was wondering, is that like Rimbald? Is that like a reference to him? I never, I haven't delved deeply into the lore of the image book. I'm sure you could write a dissertation on it.
Oh yeah, it's easily dissertation worthy. The motif of the train, just kind of different images.
That train just goes. You take that train, and then all of a sudden it's the Holocaust.
Wasn't
it's just like Jesus. It's quite something.
I mean, and then we go to the Arab world, which was quite a topical.
The bulk of the film. Probably almost half, I would say, is
it
about
took me by surprise.
Godard switching to like ISIS footage is quite the jump.
That's where I think, like, if you had to like sum up the image book, I think that's where you would have to like contend with, and sort of like my takeaway from it, and like a lot of people's takeaway is that it's about sort of like. And as I understand, I haven't seen Histoire du Cinema, but this was like a big element of Histoire du Cinema, is that cinema is like a great art, but like it still allowed human atrocities to occur under its watch as the cinema of the.
I guess
as the art form of the 20th century, it still allowed sort of like the Holocaust and incredible.
And I guess his point is that we have the ability of the image to capture atrocities and to visualize them and show people like everything that's going on, and still people are okay with.
And I think of the image book is that there's just a DR for images of sort of Arab nations and Middle Eastern nations, and sort of like what we have instead is this sort of footage of terrorism that we associate. And so it's kind of a failure on sort of the cinematic imagination that's what we have instead of sort of quote unquote positive images.
And so number 1 on the Cahiers du Cinema Best of 2019 list, and number 5 in their Best of the Decade list.
It was incredibly received. Considering when you watch it and see what it is, it did very well. Even American reviewers, like I think it was a rave review in the Times. The New York Richard Brody, of course, gave it a rave.
I think it's a brilliant film. Like, actually, I do.
It's unlike anything you'll ever see, and it's well worth sitting down and watching it. It's on Mubi, I think, isn't it?
Not anymore, sadly.
Not anymore. It was.
I had to rent it.
Release.
You got to pick up that Kino Lorber Blu-ray.
Are there any supplements on it? Have you?
I don't know. Knowing them, it's really a shot in the dark. Yeah.
I can't really. I don't dislike it, and I don't. I wouldn't say I like it. So well. I also think it comes to like I feel like I personally have a lack of understanding of the film, so I can't really like pinpoint exactly how I feel about it. So I'm like kind of. I would like. I don't want to put like a rating on it, or like a like or dislike type, feelings or talks, towards it. So, I'm kind of somewhere in the realm of like, I want to understand it more before I like make my like final thoughts on. Well, not really final thoughts, because like we were talking about earlier, and I do personally believe that like opinions like change like the seasons and stuff like that. So, I don't know really where I want to say I stand with it. I'll take the Godard approach to it, not give anything definite.
Be as vague as possible.
Yeah. But I would say it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah.
I do truly believe, Joseph, what you said. I've never seen anything like it, and that tends to be the running kind of feeling with me when I watch a Godard film. Truly nothing else like it.
He really is just incredibly fascinating. He's just in constant rebellion. He rebelled against French cinema. He rebelled against Western cinema, and he rebels against himself. And it just makes for this incredible personality. And
he must be tired.
He's got to be tired. He's got to be depressed. He's I don't know how he always comes up with these goddamn quotes. He's so quotable. He always has this in the films and in his interviews. He's just
society.
There's one that I saw that it was like he was being interviewed for something, and he was like talking like he was like, do you know what SMS stands for? He's talking about text messages. SMS doesn't stand for what standard messaging or whatever the actual thing. He's like, it stands for save my soul. When someone sends you an SMS, I mean, they want you to save their soul. I was like, geez, like
that's some like anti
high level posting. It's high level posting.
What this did reveal about Godard though is that he is a Scott Walker fan. So there's that Scott Walker needle drop, which was pretty cool.
There's a Tom Waits needle drop.
Tom Waits.
And first name Carmen, which comes out of nowhere. It's the only other music besides Beethoven in the entire film. It's just Tom Waits deep cut. It's a deep cut.
Really?
It's like Ruby, cut. It's Ruby's Arms from
great song. Great song.
It's not something that you would expect to be dropped in any film, much less a Godard film.
So yeah, I think what we've learned from just kind of talking about Godard and his films is that there's really no one else doing it like he did.
He's not dead yet, Chris. He's still got another film.
He's still making another movie. Yeah.
No, I
said there's nobody making films like he makes them, and he's constantly a trailblazer. And he may be trailblazing for a very small audience of people, but that still counts towards something. And I hope that more people will be able to appreciate his later work as much as his new wave period is critically
They just need to put out better releases of them. Like I've seen some of the trailers for some of these that they put out, and it's pitiful.
Joseph, how do you market something like this?
That is very true.
I don't know. It's tough to put together. It might be better if he just like made like intros, like Hitchcock or something. Like
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
But Hitchcock. I'll have to show you some of these, but it's just the saddest. Like I've seen the films, and like they're much better than like what the trailers paint them out to be. Which is the case with a lot of art films. But it's just like how I wouldn't buy that film based on the trailer that they put out.
Yeah.
Cohen Media Group. I wouldn't watch that.
Sometimes I feel like I feel like I have to type up a 10-page essay to someone about why Godard is brilliant, because they don't understand, you know.
Yeah, it's not. In my circles and sort of the demographic that I fall into, it's not someone that is on the top of anyone's list. I never hear him bandied about in the same way that like Tarkovsky or Bergman. Because I think a big part of it is that Godard films do not sort of emphasize emotional identification.
Oh yeah,
and that's something that people really value. And then but Godard doesn't. I don't think he's very emotional person.
I mean, a lot of his films are purposefully made to alienate the audience.
So it's he's kind of winning. He's winning against the audience.
Dude, he's
small
so
audience
winning
shows that he's really like
just look at his relationships with women and see how much winning he does, you know.
Well, this last one has stuck quite a while. Anne Marie Melville, who he makes most of his late period films with, has been since the late 70s. So wow, they've been together for 40 plus years by now.
Yeah, I mean you're right. Because he had some early flings, of course, with Anna Karenina and the girl from 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her. What's her name? There's a really great part in the Made in USA Criterion edition where they're talking about where Made in USA and 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her kind of stands in his oeuvre of like kind of a transitionary period towards,
because they were made famously at the same time.
Yeah, made at the same time, back to back, like just different days he would shoot different parts of the film. And it's Colin McCabe and Richard Brody talking about them, and they talk about how like one of the voiceovers is like, Marina Velati is her name. Her face is juxtaposed over like just a very negative, pessimistic voiceover. And a lot of people were like, yeah, or they were saying that it was probably because Godard and her were like fighting at that period. So he was just really mad at her and he was taking out his anger in the film. I just think that's a very funny sight.
It's amazing that any film turned out well.
Yeah.
But I mean, both of those films turned out very well, and they're considered classics.
Yeah.
Both on the Criterion label, or is Made in USA? Does that have a Criterion release?
It does. Yeah, it does. It
Okay.
no Blu-ray though. They gotta do a re-release soon. Yeah.
Give them time.
But so I guess we can transition to an ad break, and then we'll talk about some new releases. Or shall I say, me and Joseph will have some exchanges about 3 films in specific that we got to see. So, okay, 8:29. Right. So, moving on from French cinema, we are
sleep, Fulton.
No, that was the trash alert from.
got a big day at school tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh boy. I guess.
Sorry, guys. I gotta go to sleep.
Your free guy starts soon. I gotta go sleep.
Moving on to what we saw at the cinema this week. Me and Joseph will be talking 3 films: Stillwater, Respect, and Free Guy. I think we should go.
I can't believe we've seen. Yeah, we've both seen all of those.
Yeah.
I had a triple barrel.
I think we'll go in descending order of which is like best to worst, because I think we can top it. I think we can cap it all off with Free Guy.
Okay. Yeah.
So Stillwater was something that I had very low expectations from after seeing the poster, but hearing that it got a warm reception from Cannes, it made me kind of excited. And then when I went and saw it, I loved it. It's probably
got to be in my top 5 or 10 of the year.
It's
at this point in time.
Yeah, it's in my top 3 right now. I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot of stuff, but it's Annette, Stillwater, then Old and Stillwater may kind of be.
Free Guy is the 4th. Keep bragging on that one.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting when you think about it that there were 2 films that came out at the same time, where it was 2 MAGA Republican coded dads that went to rescue their gay children.
Right, with Joe Bell.
With Joe Bell.
I'm the only one of any of our friends who have seen, because it didn't play very widely.
It's not playing here.
Yeah. I wanted to. It actually had like a few showings in Savannah when I was there, and I just didn't get the chance to do it because it was right when I was moving
homophobic
out.
Fulton. Just couldn't be bothered.
I can't speak and I'm homophobic.
That was a curious theater experience. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But I went into the theater and I was like, you ever have that moment? You're like, am I in the right theater? Even though you know you're in the right, you're like, is this the right audience? Like, I'm looking around and I don't think this is the audience that's going to be seeing. Because it was like, I was sitting next to this like couple, this very young couple, like around my age. Mm-hmm. And they're like munching on popcorn, like having a ball. It's like, is this the kind of film that they're doing this at? This like a date night movie? Joe Bell, really?
It reminds me of that bit in the Naked Gun where they're like, where
they go to Platoon.
Yeah, or they walk out of Platoon and they're like
laughing,
smiling.
That's how I felt with like The Green Knight. It was like mainly like 50, 60-year-old people. I just didn't think they were like in the demographic.
Oh no, like I had the classic A24 like bros at that one. Mm-hmm. And you could tell from the jump, like shot, like as the film start, like, put your cell phone away. Film starts, guy pulls out his cell phone. It's the first shot of the film. Like it hasn't really started yet. It's that first long shot of like just like setting up the
village
time period. Yeah, in the village. Guy right behind him, it's like, sir, could you please put your phone away? I've never seen that happen in all my years as a theater goer. I haven't seen it happen like that.
One quick side note. I remember when I saw Spider-Man Far From Home and the movie had just ended, but me and my friends had sat in a different location. So I was split away from them. So the second the credits start rolling, they walked over to me and I stood up and I was talking to him. And then like 3 rows back behind me, some guy goes, "You guys need to sit down. The post-credit scenes are about to start and I cannot see them." I was like,
that's
dude,
parodic. That's so funny.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
God.
I was like, whatever.
Sometimes
sure.
those I stand behind them. I'm not as anti sort of the superhero films that some of my cohort and colleagues are. But sometimes they just like it's hard to deal with these people. Like I was watching that Suicide Squad movie, and like 3 folks that were next to me that you couldn't call anything but like nerds. Like that's just like you saw, like nerd. Like I'm not a jock, but like I just like wanted to like look at it like nerd. That's just how much they just fit the bill.
Yeah.
And like the one of them was like getting by. Like I was like they're in the same row, so like trying to get by me, and like hit my leg like really aggressively.
God, yeah.
And like didn't even look back, didn't say no acknowledgement. Just
I
like
hate that. Yeah.
But they did guffaw the entire every time. Every character. Oh my God. Oh, James Taika Waititi shows up. It's like, oh my God, it's my boy Taika.
I wasn't trying to be disrespectful when I stood up. I was just like, it wasn't even, I don't know. It was weird.
That's why I missed it. That's why these stories that we're telling you is why I think we need to protect the theatrical experience, because you don't get this sitting on your ass watching it on HBO Max.
One of my Lego Batman was a pretty crazy film going experience for me, because it was like everything that they said in the movie was like just probably the funniest.
There's a dude with a notepad writing down all the references.
The kids films are the funniest, because when you get a kids film with actual kids in it, they're always the most funny people. Because I saw Jungle Cruise, the funniest people. Yeah. I saw Jungle Cruise, and there was this grandma and like her 2 kids or 2 grandkids, and one of them was perfectly fine watching the movie, but the other one like about like 8 years old. 15 minutes in, he decided he hated the movie, so he would get up.
Can you blame him?
He got to like the balcony, there on like the balcony seat, and he would like be like, "I want to go home. Let's leave." And this happened like clockwork every 15 minutes. And what shook me was how unflappable this grandmother was. She was just like, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't like spank him or like tell him, "Sit down, sit," which was what I would have done. I'd be like, "Sit down. Like I paid for this." Yeah. She was just like, "I like this movie. I want to finish it. Let's just finish it."
Joseph, remind me to tell you about when I saw Old, but I don't want to repeat.
My number one film of the year.
I don't want to redo content on the podcast, but I would like to tell you about that. But back to Stillwater.
Stillwater
to kind of rear the train back on.
Stillwater is a great time. It's the direction that they take the film in. I don't think that the advertising really did justice at all. So basically the film is just, controversially, the film has been accused of just ripping off the Amanda Knox story, which happened years ago, where a woman was framed for the murder.
If you see the film, a lot of digressions, a lot of different things.
Yeah, but plenty of digressions, some similarities, but Matt Damon he works in Oklahoma. He's an oil rig worker, and his daughter is imprisoned in France, in Marseille. And he goes and tries to get his daughter out, and they won't take up her case. They won't listen to her pleas about how she has information and how she can get out. And so Matt Damon decides that he's going to do it himself. And it's a very nice story about a man meeting a single woman and her daughter, and then kind of becoming this father figure to that to that woman's daughter, and how he's trying to how he's trying to absolve himself of his past shortcomings as a father through trying to get his daughter out, as well as trying to become a father figure to this little girl.
Yeah, it has like you intimated, it's a very different trajectory than you would expect from a film of this scale. And Matt Damon does great work.
Oh, great job.
I would gander to say that it might be his best performance.
You guys are really getting me excited to see it.
Oh yeah, please do, Fulton.
I really do. Yeah.
Go watch it and go get the Sonic meal get the Coney dog with cheese and
Stillwater
onions,
challenge,
large tots, and a cherry slush or something.
That and Annette. Really want to get those two in here soon.
But yeah, Stillwater, it's a very fine pick. It's the kind of adult picture that a lot of people say aren't made anymore, and so that's why I think you should support it. It's really a movie made for adults and is very has very serious themes and character and very intense character. Like it takes pains to sort of give its characters like a sufficient amount of time and space. In a way that really impressed me. Like it gave it like there's this digression, like this sort of second act that like is really kind of like mildly like a mild miracle in the way that and sort of the time it takes to let sort of characters just sort of like live and hang out in a way that I did not expect.
Very much it's 2 hours and 20 minutes, but I feel like you don't really it really earns its length because you really do get a lot of breathing time with these characters that I think makes the conclusion a lot more it makes the conclusion make a lot more sense and I think it makes for a better film all around. But yeah, so please go see Stillwater.
That's our good film. Now on to the bad.
Film. So I saw Respect and surprisingly after I watched it,
give me the circumstances on why you saw it. You just go, you're just like, oh it's at Sydney, I'll go see it.
No, this is what happened. So I wanted to go see Annette again, and they said, sorry, the projector's broken. Right, the only other thing that's playing is Respect. So I went and saw Respect instead, and I thought it was pretty bad.
How many people were in your theater?
Oh, there were, I don't know, probably like 10, 12 people.
Oh, that's a lot.
They were hooting and hollering
in mine.
Really?
It was like no one was there. I didn't hear them.
They were hooting and hollering at some of the jokes, like that Episcopalian joke.
The Episcopals.
Yeah.
Ray Charles. That was a big joke.
But oh man, what a bad movie! Like it's such a by the numbers.
It's curious because I usually do like these kind. I'm quite a big fan of. I like Walk the Line and I like the Ray film.
The Jamie Foxx one, yeah.
And with those are this in a similar vein of like telling pretty much like an entire like decades of someone's life. These days I do tend to like the sort of smaller stories. I think that's more the trend is sort of if you're doing a biopic, you want to just focus in on a specific period of time. Like there's a great one recently on Nico, and it was sort of focused on the last year of her life, I think 1988. And that was a good little granular look at sort of a life.
But I think that's when they work better when they're on this macro level.
Yeah. I think that's the way to go because like just these people have just such incredible, just giant careers that you can't really encapsulate in a 2-hour film. Like there's the Fulton has probably seen John Lennon. Have you seen the John Lennon one, Nowhere Boy?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and I really enjoy that movie, and it's just about it's just about sort of his upbringing and sort of his early childhood.
My only complaint is, I think that was right before he was about to do Kick-Ass, so Aaron Taylor Johnson like looked really buff, and I was like, really Lennon is not a buff guy. Yeah, but I was willing to like overlook that because I thought that he did like a good job. But I was going to ask you, have you seen Love and Mercy?
Oh, Love and Mercy is that's a fantastic film.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite that I've seen out of the music biopics.
That one's great because it has variety because you get to just flip between the two sort of the time periods, and that's a great little conceit.
Or it's, I don't know, something like one that I really like that's more conventional but still kind of plays around with the formula is the films of Milos Forman I think are pretty good examples.
Amadeus.
I mean, Amadeus is a great film.
One of the greatest films ever made. Yeah. But even like something like Man on the Moon or The People versus Larry Flint, where it kind of
still tells the story of somebody, or Larry Flint's more about the moment in Larry Flint's life that kind of led up to his Supreme Court case about censorship with Jerry Falwell Jr. But Man on the Moon does tell the entire story of Andy Kaufman. But I think it just kind of weaves the narrative in a more unique way that Respect really doesn't want to do. It's more just like telling you, this is Aretha Franklin's life, and she was a kid and people liked her singing, and then bam, and then she met Martin Luther King and
the Wikipedia problem.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
The funny thing is that I was doing some, because I'm a pretty big Aretha fan. That's what got me through the films. I know quite a number of her albums very well, and sort of followed her career. And it's kind of a case where I didn't know a lot of the sort of the granular biographical information. Like I didn't know about her husbands or anything like that. Very specific. Yeah. And so I kind of did like a fact check afterward. It seems like a lot of this is just like none of it, some of it seems to be just completely like out of thin air.
Yeah. Was Aretha like an alcoholic?
I think that might have been true. The thing I'm talking about is like, well, one of the minor things is that I saw like, I looked it up and it's like, apparently no one called her Ree. Like that wasn't really a thing. Which is like everyone in the film calls her Ree, like abbreviation for Aretha.
Maybe they were shooting for like to get it on like a T-shirt or like some merchandise type.
Ree.
Yeah.
Ree.
So
and like there's a pivotal part of the film is like this like statutory rape that happens, or it might be beyond statutory, as the film intimates, but
never
as far as I can like on official record. And also like the family is like involved in the making of this film. It's one of those like kind of official biographies. So obviously I don't have as much information as they do, but it was just sort of things where I was kind of confused on sort of what was being peddled to me.
Man, you know what this reminds me of too? There was that horrible biopic about Gene Seberg with Kristen Stewart, just called Seberg. And I think both of these movies make the 60s out to be incredibly boring. And that's like such a disservice to all the things that are going on. Like they're like watching TV and it's like, Martin Luther King has been shot or Angela Davis has been arrested. And it's just in the most.
What was that?
Just
was it
like
Stories to Tell in the Dark that me and you saw?
Oh yeah, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Where they're just like
awesome.
Referencing Watergate constantly on the TV.
And it goes nowhere.
As soon as Martin Luther King was introduced in the movie, it was like, he's gonna get shot. It's gonna be really sad. Yeah, it's terrible when you have to like conflate these like massive historical figures to these cliches.
It's really just
what I'll say, I think Jennifer Hudson did a good job. I think she's pretty good in the film. I think that the performance is pretty good. I think that I really enjoy the music. Like it's similar to a lot of music films where like whenever they're making music in the film, which I think is always the most I think in these films they need to do more of it than they do. But when they're making like in the studio making the music, those are the sections I enjoy most from Respect.
Yeah, I just think that we live in a world where Mishima Life in 4 Chapters exists. Like people, anybody making a biopic should watch that movie and at least digest what they just saw, because I think it's a really good way of looking at a person and kind of just, that Danny Boyle Steve Jobs movie kind of did a similar thing where it's just like 3 different.
I enjoyed that one. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great film.
I thought that was a very smart way of going about that.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess moving on to the worst of the worst, a film that I could even call I would say is actually a sinister film.
Sinister.
I would say sinister.
So far.
Didn't you say that for Space Jam as well?
Yeah, no, I think Space Jam, Free Guy, and Ready Player One.
Would you say Space Jam or Free Guy is worse?
I would say Space Jam. Space Jam
really
is worse.
I think Free Guy is much worse because I think Space Jam works a lot more as a narrative than Free Guy does.
I feel like Space Jam is a randomly generated film.
And Free Guy isn't?
Well, Free Guy is too, but not on the same magnitude where it feels as shameless with what it's trying to do injecting product.
I enjoyed
placement.
nothing in Free Guy to the level that I enjoyed Don Cheadle in Space Jam 2.
This mastermind.
Incredible, just incredible performance. Every scene he's different. Every scene.
So before I kind of dive into my just my tirade against this movie, I was interested at why Cheek to Cheek from the Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers film Top Hat was playing randomly.
It makes an appearance, yeah.
Yeah.
Not a very like weird, like not very necessary way.
Yeah, it's just there.
Like they're not dancing or anything. It's just like literally like they're in like a garage and it starts playing out of nowhere.
Maybe Sean Levy is just really big fan. Is just a really big fan of the Purple Rose of Cairo.
We could ask him. Yeah, let's get him on podcast 43.
Oh,
I don't know if he's going to want to go on the phone. So I think that what I find sinister about this movie is that it's, other than I think the video game stuff just does not work at all, and a lot of the references and a lot of the
does Among Us make a reference?
Surprisingly not.
That's very well. I guess it was made before,
but
way before that.
But I think the thing that's the worst thing about this is that it paints. So Ryan Reynolds is like a non-player character in a video game that realizes that he lives in a video game and like falls in love with this girl that's like a player in the game, and then he tries to like help her take down like the video game because the evil boss that runs the video game, played by Taika Waititi, stole some of the code from the girl and her friend that made an independent video game. And so the way that it portrays Taika Waititi's character is just like this evil corporatist, like, guy that just cares about, the bottom line. What are we making this quarter? We need to be in the black, like every single quarter. Profits are the only thing that matters. And then it's like, Free Guy is Ryan Reynolds' character. He's like this heroic celebrity that a bunch of people kind of rally around and realize and try to like root for as he's trying to topple this Taika Waititi's kind of character, Taika Waititi's whole master plan. And so I just find it interesting that they do this. And then they reference in the final battle, he like gets out like a lightsaber to fight the evil boss that they create in the Star Wars.
That's easily the low point of the film.
The Star Wars theme starts playing. And then he also blocks the punch with the Captain America shield, and it cuts to Chris Evans being like, "Oh, come on." And it's just like, you guys,
I read somewhere that only happened because of the merger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like Disney is Taika Waititi's character. They don't care about art. They clearly only care about the bottom line, judging by how we've heard they make their directors, like, not even for the Marvel movies, they don't even let their directors choreograph their action. They just like give it
procedurally generated ahead of time.
And so I just find it, I just find the message to be incredibly fucked up, because it's like, it's such a lie. Like, they are Taika Waititi's character.
Well, I have not seen this movie, and I've sworn to not see it because, I mean, a while back ago, I guess, like when I was in middle school, I thought Ryan Reynolds was funny, but then one day a switch like flipped in my mind, and I was like, it's the same thing every single time. And I mean, for people who like it, that's fine. It's just personally not my thing. But every time I see it, it's just the same exact brand of humor over and over again. And it like hurts my heart every time I see it. I kind of despise it in a way. But this movie is not for me, and I can't bear myself to like pay to see it, because it's just against my cause and my own personal revolution. So, I can't,
Fulton just setting himself on fire in front of the multiplex. Just like, no.
see something else. But I mean, like I said, if this is your thing, by all means, don't let me stop you from seeing it. But
incredibly well reviewed for the kind of like having seen it, and it's like I'm kind of shocked at how well reviewed.
Yeah,
it is. Like I knew that the audience would like it, but like sort of by like the critical establishment, it has a green Metascore, which means a lot to some people.
Well, when the embargo got lifted slightly before it came out, I was on Twitter and it was like 84% certified. And I was like, no fucking way. I was like, I think COVID may have like fucked with some critics' heads or something. I don't know, but maybe the bars, we got to raise the bar a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But Oscar season is coming around. We're still getting good movies.
And we're rooting for Ryan Reynolds to take home Best Actor, Best Leading Actor.
For some reason, the buff guy, Ryan Reynolds, I thought that was funny as a concept. And my brain almost went, maybe I should see that. And then I was like Two-Face. I was like, no, hold on. No.
Grace, you laugh, but buff guy Ryan Reynolds, that got such a react. That's the most. That's the most reaction I've ever seen in a theater in years. Bet.
But they ruined the whole bit by doing like a mockumentary as promotion thing for it.
Didn't matter to these folks.
Yeah,
they were just
woo. Oh my gosh.
I like how Deadpool did a reaction video to the Free Guy trailer. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool.
It's bleak. Man. It's just a bleak movie. It's really sad. I think it's, like I said, I think it's not as bad as Space Jam 2, but it's definitely
it's worse than Space Jam. Space Jam 2 had some. It's just I get behind sort of just the memification of some of these. Like, I really is just, it is wild that Porky Pig, Notorious P.I.G. like that's just something that like how you can't even make it up. Like it's
or
just
Big Chungus shows up.
Yeah, it's just one of these things where like it's something. It's just it really just is something, and I just like I stand behind it to some level. I'm just like, okay, yeah.
You won't see me put both my feet on and stand behind Space Jam, but it's not a very good movie. I know I've talked about this before, but I was kind of entertained by it because it's just such a weird experience that I wish I saw in the theater, but I watched it at home. So, but
Free Guy and Space Jam 2, both those two films were the most packed theaters that I've been in since COVID. Those were the two, like they're pretty much full.
Mm-hmm.
Take me back to when Shampoo was the third highest grossing movie of the year.
I think Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla v Kong was the most packed theater. That was Green Knight would be second, I think.
That was an insane. That was like so many people were were like going to see Godzilla versus
that
Kong.
Actually gave me hope that theaters were going to be okay, and then it's just kind of continued down the same.
Apparently, Free Guy's doing good, so
but I mean, I think like with a lot of these movies, they do really good for the first weekend, and then they drop by like 60 to 80%. We'll see
week 2. If it does well week 2, I'd be really impressed. But
that's
it has like an A cinema score, which is really high.
That's why Old actually has been Old's making like a good profit, which is really cool.
That's good. Like, well, it's because Chris, me and you did our episode on
it. Yeah,
that really spurred people, to like. That episode did do good, but it did,
So I guess if we want to move on quickly to talking about our top 3 this week, we should probably go quite fast because we did talk. This is quite a long episode.
But it, when it's natural, I don't mind it.
Yeah,
I think it's we've never like padded an episode out, I don't think. But
Cody was just like, you're gonna talk long this episode.
Yeah,
you're gonna do it.
You gotta talk as long as possible.
I think that is our longest episode, actually. The best of
2020 was definitely our longest episode.
And then second is our first Peter Bogdanovich fest. I think that comes in second.
So yeah, I think that like my top 3 is gonna be best thing that I saw this week that I hadn't seen because I did rewatch Annie Hall twice this week was and I rewatched High Fidelity as well. Was probably Werner Herzog's Nosferatu.
Wait, did you say you watched Annie Hall twice this week?
I did watch.
Chris, are you okay? Do you need, you need counseling?
I'm fine. I need the eggs. That's all I need. But I'm gonna go with my number one is Nosferatu the Vampire, the 1979 Werner Herzog remake of Nosferatu, or kind of remake. Of course, great performance by Klaus Kinski as the vampire, as Count Orlok. And of course, Isabella Johnny also bringing it. Just a very bleak film about the Black Plague and about death and about cool vampire shit.
That's right.
My number two would have to be Clint Eastwood's Sudden Impact, which is a great film. And as
that's better than Bronco Billy.
I mean, yeah, I like it more than Bronco Billy. Bronco Billy's my number three, though. But I as Cash Robinson once said, friend of the show, when I watched it with him last week, this film has better politics than Promising Young Woman.
God.
Okay.
Get in a rumble with Cash the next time I see him.
But Dirty Harry 4 Sudden Impact is the only Clint directed Dirty Harry, and just an insane ride. It's got Clint Eastwood, regular player, Sandra Locke in it, in an insane role of a woman that is out for blood to kill all the people that raped her sister. And she's great in it, and of course Clint's great in it as always. Just a all around excellent neo-noir film. And Bronco Billy, which is a introspective autobiographical Clint Eastwood movie. As many have said, this is Clint Eastwood's 8.5.
That's right.
It's really the final word on him as a cowboy in this archetype that kind of was so synonymous with the name Clint Eastwood, and how he how he has to adapt to the developing world, and how in this world the cowboy is seen as a novelty that children can look up to, and travels around doing shows for them while also giving them positive messages about how they need to stay in school and listen to their parents and pray and all this other stuff. And they're no longer this outlaw, and the true cowboy is dead. And Clint wants to tell us that. But all around a great film. But those are
one of my great discoveries of the Clint box set was Bronco Billy. I really do enjoy that film. It is one of the it's probably maybe the sprightliest Clint film. Like if I was depressed, I would put on Bronco Billy.
Yeah,
I do really want to see it soon.
Sandra Locke's in it too, of course.
Did you want to do your recent watches, Joseph, real quick?
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. I watched recently The Oxbow Incident, starring Henry Fonda. It's kind of in the similar vein to the a film that you've probably seen if you're a cineast, The 12 Angry Men, sort of just standing up for what's right. It's a psychological Western about, it's sort of is a story of a lynch mob that forms, and sort of the question is whether, on the frontier, things are changing. Like, do we uphold law and order, or do we sort of go to our basest instincts? And sort of that's kind of the central tension of the film. Very, very good film. I highly recommend it.
Would it be a good double feature for Liberty Valance?
Oh yeah, it's a lot more cynical than Liberty Valance, I would say. But yeah, I think that'd be a pretty bangerang feature, double feature. Probably second after that, I really enjoyed the film Val, the documentary Val, which you can watch on Amazon Prime now. And it's sort of, I really enjoyed it because Val Kilmer is not an actor that I'm particularly fond of. I like him, but he's sort of one of those that has such a scattered career. has had some very good roles, some very bad roles.
Yes.
But sort of this documentary, which is the reason it was made really is because if you've seen the trailer or heard anything about it, he has filmed so much of his life with like his own like VHS or equipment and stuff. He's very sort of on the cutting edge of that, very interested in doing that, doing like home video stuff. And he just has so much footage. And so it really seeing his very personal perspective, and like it's one of those kind of like unreliable narrator things, like you're not going to trust everything he says. Like it's very personal perspective, but it really brings his whole career into relief, and really like shows you like the singularity behind it.
It sounds like that type of documentary that I'd really be able to get behind. I really appreciate when people take the documentary format, which is just a mode of filmmaking, not a genre. I'd always like to raise that point. And are able to make something unique that doesn't rely on just talking heads being like, we never knew what Val was shooting on these cameras. It was really insane.
No real there's no real talking head stuff in it.
Awesome.
I will say this, I think he's kind of an underrated Batman. I actually,
as a kid, as a child, know Batman Forever was one of my favorite Batman films.
Same here. That was the one I had the VHS. I was always playing it around. Chris, I know, but I actually do think he has a lot of charisma in that movie. He's kind of like my favorite part of that.
Oh, there's a great bit about Batman Forever in it, Fulton, which I'm sure you'll get a kick out of.
Yeah.
Any Oliver Stone.
There's some good Doors material there.
Oh, great.
Oh man, now you've really sold me. I do want to see that. Well, I planned on watching it anyways. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Now that me and Fulton are in Athens together,
you can watch things together.
We can watch movies together.
I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
That wasn't what was stopping me from watching films with you, Chris. It's not the proximity.
Joseph, I'll come watch movies with you.
Yeah, you'll come to Wisconsin and watch films.
But I'm super excited to start watching movies together and recording live, and but I actually only was able to get in 3 other movies. I don't really have any particular order that I really want to talk about these in, but I'll start with.
I never the third.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Joseph.
No, you're good. You're good. In the interest, this wasn't like my third favorite movie of the week, but in the interest of sort of foregrounding films that are in theaters, I'm going to put this film as my third film. Is Don't Breathe 2.
Oh, okay. I'm very interested to hear about that.
I was a fan of the first.
It was pushed to me. It was pushed to me by my friend Nathan, another friend of the show. But we're both big horror aficionados, and he hadn't seen it yet, I don't think. But he had told me, I didn't keep up with sort of the press on it, that Sam Raimi had said it's the best idea for a sequel I've ever heard.
I heard that too. Yeah.
And then it's like, this is the guy who made Evil Dead 2, and then also. The director of the first one, he told me, Fede Alvarez, who's a very good director, and so the first Don't Breathe is a very good film, and I probably prefer it to this one, honestly. But he said the second one is even better than the first one. I was like, all right, if the director of the first one is saying this, like, I'm gonna go schlep to the theater and watch it. And when I watched it, the first half, I was like, oh, they were just lying. This was hype. This is just so derivative of why is this a movie? And like, if you've seen the first one, you know, like that the second one is wild, because the second one, the old man in the first one is the sort of the protagonist of the second one. It's just like, based on what you know from the first one.
I was wondering, like, he was literally chaining up women.
Yeah, it's like, how is he thinking? And so I was like in my mind, this is the sequel. I thought it was a prequel. Like, oh, it's got to be before. Like, they can't justify. Like,
that would have been interesting. Yeah,
but no, it's a sequel. It's a straight, like, it's in the future. It's like after the events of the first one.
Well, I'll say this: it had I don't like being so negative towards people's works, but I really dislike the trailer for Don't Breathe 2. I thought the trailer
is horrendous, and that's why I almost didn't see it at all. But then Nathan had told me these things, like, oh, I'll see it. And
same.
I'm kind of pleasantly surprised. I was kind of pleasantly surprised by the end of it, because the second half really is good fun. It's got a good sort of shock, like that kind of violence that, you know, it's shocking enough that, you know, it's worth it to see. It's just like, oh wow, okay, yeah, they're going for it. Like, there are people who are just like, the people sitting next to me was like that. There are some people who like walked out. There's like, this is disgusting. Like, I didn't come to see this. And it's got like the director is, I think, I don't remember what the name is, but is really quite proficient.
I know they produced the first one.
Yeah, like whoever it was, like they have a I don't think the story is all there, but like they have a skill for like storytelling, like the actual like the sort of showing, like having a good skill for composition and sort of showing what's going on in a very legible, entertaining way. And so I think it's a pretty good film. I would say that, you know, I'm not a fan of sequels in general, but I think it was good fun, and it was definitely worth going out to the theater for.
Cool. Well, I'll have to be checking that out.
Yeah, Chris, if you want to go, I'm down.
Yeah. Well, we missed Tuesday. Tuesday would have been the perfect day to go, but
there's always another Tuesday.
I don't even know what's coming out this week.
But
yeah, what are your films?
The first film I'll talk about is Akira, and I don't think I have too much to say about it other than Jesus Christ, it's a beautiful fucking it's so beautiful. I love the animation, especially like the kind of animation that I see a lot of the time from these like 80s and 90s like anime films. I think it's really, really like breathtaking. And one thing while I was watching it, because for people who might not know, I am a Kanye fan, and there's a lot of he's made a lot of references to Akira with his art. And I just want to know, like, I want to know kind of like his thought process. If he ever does a commentary track for a movie, I really do hope that it would be Akira. I'm just really interested to know what his kind of thoughts are. But I also saw Pig with Nicolas Cage. And this is a really interesting movie to me because it really, you know, when it came out, I think kind of Nicolas Cage is kind of an atmosphere where a lot of the times he's not taken seriously. So when this film was announced and the trailer came out, everyone was like, it's John Wick, but with a pig. And this movie is so far from that description. Like it's a truly like really humanistic and emotional like film to me. It's got a lot of like heart. And I do like Alex Wolff, which I didn't know he was in it when I had started it. But yeah, no, it's a really, really interesting movie. I kind of recommend that. And it does slow down a little bit, kind of like in the transition between the second to third act. But I think that kind of third act and a lot of the emotions in that kind of really kind of won me over. And lastly, I want to talk about a horror film called The Slayer. And the reason I kind of wanted to check this one out is because it was all shot on Tybee, which is really close to my hometown. So when I heard that, I was like, oh wow, I really, really want to see that. So that and like City of the Living Dead was also shot in downtown Savannah as well. So I really want to check that out and everything. But to focus back on The Slayer, like I really, really think the last like 15 to 30 minutes of the movie are great. And when I was recommended, I went to Greyface, and this was recommended to me. And they also, and the person that Roman, the man that runs the kind of Blu-ray section of Greyface, said the same thing. And he's very right. And so there are like three main deaths that happen, like 3 or 4 main deaths that happen, and kind of build up to the third act and to those like 15, 30 minutes that I'm kind of referring to. But they're so like goofy. And if they were just kind of redone in a way that was more like startling, I think a lot of people would kind of, you know, talk about it more. But those, like, all the deaths are super goofy up until you get to the end, that it's really like really, really, really well done and building up like suspense and tension. And I don't want to ruin it, but it's also kind of cool to see, you know, because I've been to Tybee a ton of times. And I've never been to the Post Theater myself, but for people who might not know, the Post Theater was a theater made for you know, military for the military, so they could, have something to do while they were stationed and everything on Tybee. And so they shoot, parts of it are done at the fort on Tybee. And after the military kind of moved out of that fort, there wasn't really a big use for the post theater, so it was left abandoned up until I think the early 2000s or something. And so there's portions of the film that are shot in the abandoned kind of post theater. That's really cool too. So yeah, I mean, I love the ending. That really kind of won me over. I just wish those first couple deaths weren't so kind of goofy, like I said, but it's a low budget kind of horror film, and I really do appreciate it for kind of what it is. It's got a great release from Arrow as well. And the cinematographer is
remind me of the title again.
The Slayer.
The Slayer. Okay.
It had a different name, I want to say, when it was released in the UK, or it may have been referred to as
horror
else.
Movies are notorious for just changing their title.
Well, and Joseph, you might know about this collection of films, but this may be one of the Video Nasties, but I forget. But there's a collection of film called the Video Nasties that were outlawed and banned in the UK. But they were banned at a time when VHS was the only form of mass media that they were kind of producing stuff on. So when they got reprinted on maybe Laserdisc, but DVD and Blu-ray, those are fine, but you cannot own a VHS copy of the films deemed a Video Nasty.
Wow.
Which Roman also told me about that. Actually. Yeah. So I just find it super, super fascinating that it's just the VHS copy. Anything other than that, you can't do. But yeah, no, I recommend that, and the Arrow supplements and everything. They're really cool.
Well, to cap it all off, I was looking at what's coming out this week, and it's actually kind of a big week. We got the Hugh Jackman movie
Reminiscence. Let's go. Are y'all gonna go out to the theater to see it?
I'm gonna watch it on HBO Max in the comfort of my own home.
I have the AMC thing, the stubs or the A-list thing, so it's really a matter of me getting in my car and are we going to do this today?
At first, when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, I can kind of get behind that. I kind of like the world that they kind of are presenting. But the more I see of it, the more I'm like,
the thing
it's also a ripoff of that. People were saying it's a ripoff of that Catherine Bigelow movie. What's it called?
Which one?
It's from
American
the 90s.
Gigolo. Deuce Bigelow.
It's the one. I'll look it up quickly.
The thing is, if I don't see it in theaters, I probably won't see it on HBO Max either. I'll have to go see it.
Yeah, that might be the same with me too.
Strange Days. A lot of people are saying it's a ripoff of that movie from '95 with Ralph Fiennes and Angela Bassett. But yeah, I think it looks very derivative. But the one that I'm probably a little bit more excited about is The Night House, which is something that Searchlight's putting out. It's like a horror movie with Rebecca Hall.
I'm curious about. I liked the director's last film, which was a Netflix film, The Ritual, which I thought was pretty good.
Oh,
I wouldn't call it exceptional, but I think there were some good things in it.
Okay.
I watched it with some friends, and it was a good time.
Yeah, I feel like this could be similarly.
The trailer for this, I don't like the Night House trailer.
I hate that. I thought it revealed way too much.
So I'm not excited for it, but I might go see it.
And Neil Blomkamp has a new movie out. Surprisingly, Demonic.
Yeah, that one's not getting great reviews.
Neil Blomkamp not getting good reviews. What? Chappie was such a surefire hit.
We gotta do Chappie.
And then the one that I'm most excited for, Sean Penn's Flag Day, baby.
It's not playing anywhere that I can see.
It's playing in Athens, Joseph.
Is it gonna play? Oh, you lucky.
Guess you gotta calm down.
I guess you gotta drive back from Wisconsin.
You know I love Sean Penn.
I know you do. Yeah. It's gonna be a great time. I'm really excited.
The trailer looks really good.
Yeah.
If you've seen it, it's played at one film I've seen recently, and it was I was impressed because even as a Sean Penn super fan, I don't have much faith in what he puts out in the last 5 years or so. But this one looks like it could break through.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Into the Wild.
Really? What did you not like about it, Fulton?
It might be time for me to revisit it, but I don't know. I just something about it. I don't even think I finished it, but I started it freshman or sophomore year of high school. I don't know what I'm kind of struggling to remember.
It's very moving. It's got a good lead performance. Vince Vaughn is great.
Yeah, I think it's
Hal Holbrook.
I did like Vince Vaughn in it, and I liked the old man that
Hal Holbrook is great.
Yeah. But I guess I'll say one final thing before we kind of talk about the feature film for next week. I kind of forgot this was approaching, but it does make sense. But we're about next week. And funny enough, it comes out on a Tuesday when we release. Yeah, it'll be the 1 year anniversary of Podcast 43 forming and releasing our first episode, and it'll also be, which it was purely coincidental, but it'll be our first not live, but recording in person episode. So that'll also be kind of a fun way to kind of bask in the glory of 1 year of 43 going on. So
I haven't even gone back to that episode, but it lacks
I'm sure it's rough
structure whatsoever.
I'm sure it's rough.
And I remember texting Joseph and asking for pointers, and you were like, you gave me a good list of improvements.
Did I now? I don't even remember that.
Yeah. I appreciated all of
wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's been this long. Wow.
It doesn't feel like it. I mean, but that was for people who might not know, I'm sure they can probably guess, but me and Chris recorded the first few couple episodes on our iPhones. So
horrible audio.
Yeah.
So I guess if you want to introduce next week's film, Fulton.
Yes. I thought about changing it to be kind of something more like celebratory, but I don't really know what I would do. But we'll just keep it what I originally talked about. We're going to look at Johnny Got His Gun,
which was the Dalton Trumbo novel and
directorial
directed film.
Yeah. Are you guys going to watch Trumbo?
I will be watching.
I kind of want to watch it. Yeah.
Have you guys not seen Trumbo?
I still haven't seen it.
Oh
no.
my god, Trumbo is
wanted to see it so
respect.
badly.
The same probably level as respect as that.
Oh man.
Well, I was super into Bryan Cranston when it first came out, and I was like,
I mean, he functions well in the film. It's just it really is. It's pretty weak overall.
Isn't the better film about classic Hollywood from? I mean, at least it seems.
Mank.
I got
you, Chris.
No,
right. That's right.
No, it's
Mank
not.
Supremacy.
Gotcha.
Don't
Gotcha.
let Mank. Don't let the Mank positive Mank praise just pollute the audio wave. No, I was talking about the Cat's Meow, that Bogdanovich movie is kind of fun. But yeah, I'm excited to see Johnny Got His Gun. My friend has spoken incredibly highly of that book and the film as well. But yeah, so thanks for joining us, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and we will see y'all, or we'll talk to y'all next week. Stay wavy, stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe.